Good evening. Our top story tonight, NFL free agency is underway and we are cooking with gas. We've got new teams for all the running backs except for Derrick Henry, but Josh Jacobs, Saquon Barkley, Devin Singletary, Tony Pollard, Austin Eckler all have new teams. Kirk Cousins is now a Falcon. Russell Wilson is a Pittsburgh Steeler, and we've got so much more breaking down all the free agency needs and movings on Player Profiler today. And so we are back, and so is free agency. My heart has been pounding all day long. I have been nonstop every chance I get. And it's hard sometimes when you're at work, but every chance you get, you scroll through and you refresh. And if you're in the Player Profiler Discord, you are getting these news updates immediately as they happened. Make sure you subscribe, you follow whatever it's called to the Player Profiler Discord so you can see us at work breaking down all of these news. And then we get articles going up on Player Profiler News. Every player has their associated news linked to them. It is just beautiful. Hats off to Bradley Stalder. You all know him. He hosts Player Profiler today on Thursdays. He has been doing an amazing job managing all of this news. I've been in there as well, helping break some of it, but we've got a lot to talk about, and we've got Harry Snowman in the chat. Happy to see you here, my friend. Got to send you a message after the show, catch up with you on all this news. So let's start things off with Kirk Cousins to the Atlanta Falcons, 4 years, $180 million. That is $45 million per year coming off the Achilles tear. And this became pretty clear yesterday. We were told that Kirk Cousins would have a decision for the Minnesota Vikings by Sunday. And when we heard Kirk Cousins was going to test free agency, this was all but a foregone conclusion that he would become an Atlanta Falcon. All throughout the process, we heard Vikings, Falcons, Vikings, Falcons, Falcons, Vikings, Falcons, Vikings, Vikings, Falcons. So it's pretty clear that the Falcons were willing to pay top dollar for Kirk Cousins, whereas the Vikings are looking for a little bit of a transition. They realize the NFC North is strong. This might not be their year. So Kirk walks to Atlanta. Drake London finally has a real quarterback. Bijan Robinson gets to be the Dalvin Cook behind Kirk Cousins. Jonnu Smith can become Kyle Rudolph. Can he become Adam Thielen? I don't know. But either way, good things happening in Atlanta. Great decision to sign Kirk Cousins, who worked with Raheem Morris, the head coach of the Falcons, all the way back with the Washington Slurs. Let's call them the Commanders. Kirk Cousins there with Raheem Morris. Zach Robinson runs that Kyle Shanahan offense, that Sean McVay offense, that Kevin Stefanski offense. So this will be a very easy transition for Kirk Cousins. Happy to see Anthony in the chat as well. But it'll be an easy transition for Kirk Cousins. Drake London stock goes up. Kyle Pitts stock goes up. Bijan Robinson stock goes up. This is just the best thing that could happen. Good for all the Falcons, but the defense. Falcons defense is pretty strong as well. They need a cornerback number 2. They've got defensive linemen. They've got linebackers. They've got Jesse Bates at safety. So the Falcons are starting to look good. They also signed Charlie Warner, former tight end of the San Francisco 49ers. He'll replace Jonnu Smith, be that inline blocking tight end, but Kyle Pitts is going to spend more time blocking as well. So that is the other move by the Falcons today. They're going to have to add a second wide receiver as well at some point. Figure that out. It's Matt Collins is a free agent. Scotty Miller is a free agent. But even if it was them, it can't be them. So Falcons making some moves there at wide receiver 2 in the near future. And the Vikings, what are they going to do at quarterback? Is Sam Darnold the guy? Because right now it's Jaron Hall and Nick Mullins. We saw Nick Mullins. Nick Mullins might throw for 7,000 yards in an NFL season, but he'll have 50 interceptions as well. Nick Mullins, a turnover machine, but a gunslinger. And Jaron Hall just really proved to not be it in his short stint as the quarterback. But the Vikings are making moves outside of the offense. They signed 2 edge rushers. Jonathan Grenard gets 4 years, $76 million. That's $19 million per year for the former Houston Texans edge rusher, former Florida Gator before that. Was a big fan of Jonathan Grenard coming out. Went later in the draft than he should have and really broke out. And the Vikings also signed Andrew Van Ginkel to a 2-year, $36 million deal. That's $13 million per year. So the Vikings add 2 edge rushers. Pretty clear that Danielle Hunter is going to be walking in free agency. Danielle Hunter, the longtime Minnesota Viking, dominant for years and years and years. He's going to cash in big in free agency. Maybe that happens during this show. Maybe I should keep an eye on my phone during this show to see if anything else comes in. But for now, we are still good. And the Vikings also signed Blake Cashman, the former Houston Texans and New York Jets linebacker. Blake Cashman got a lot of flack for a lot of years because his arms were too short and it hurt his tackling. And then he broke out, was one of the best linebackers in football in 2023. Returns to his home state of Minnesota, where he played for the Golden Gophers. He gets a 3-year, $22.5 million deal. That's $7.5 million per. So the Vikings, even though they don't have a quarterback, they are making moves on the defense. They are figuring things out. We've got a lot to figure out in free agency. We're going to be recapping all of it. But first, before we get to that, we've got a word from the Podfather.
Now, I know many of you are looking for a secret weapon for your Dynasty League, and I have it. It's called the Dynasty Dominator app. You go to the App Store, go to Google Play. It's right there. It's $5 to download, and then every year it's $5 to load the next incoming class of rookies. You can add superflex, add tight end premium. It's incredible because it allows you to look up players. It allows you to vote on whether a player is a buy, hold, or sell, and then see the market sentiment on that player. And you can compare their lifetime value rating from PlayerProfiler to their Dynasty ADP at the FFPC, all in the price lookup tool. And beyond that, we have a trade analyzer, so you'll never lose another Dynasty trade again. And in our settings, you can set this is a win now team, this is a rebuilding team, and then we let you compare players. Look at their metrics side by side, prospect metrics, NFL metrics. It's all there. It's $5 in the App Store. There's some add-ons for Superflex and to buy the upcoming rookie class. Every year, you're going to spend $5 on this thing, and it's going to be well worth it.
We are back, and thank you to my friend Anthony for confirming that I am up to date on all of the news here. We're going to get to quarterbacks and finish that up before we get to the running backs. Russell Wilson joins the Pittsburgh Steelers 1 year, $1.2 million. That is the veteran minimum. The Broncos will pay Russell Wilson $38 million this season. Brilliant move by the Pittsburgh Steelers. Kenny Pickett is not a starting quarterback in the NFL. He's not a top 32 quarterback in the NFL. Not a top 35 quarterback in the NFL. So getting Russell Wilson, who's still a top 20-ish quarterback in the NFL. Maybe he's as low as top 24 quarterback. Maybe he's as high as top 18. Either way, that's an upgrade. That is an objective upgrade. And for a team like the Pittsburgh Steelers, who refuses to rebuild, get a young quarterback, a young stud quarterback at the very least, great decision, because the other option was Mason Rudolph, and Mason Rudolph is going to sign for more than Russell Wilson. That's the crazy part. And if he was brought back, he'd be paid more than Russ. So you get your starting quarterback at literally the cheapest you can get for a veteran quarterback. The only way you could be cheaper is if you're Brock Purdy making $900K a year. So Russ going to be the starting quarterback of the Pittsburgh Steelers. This is going to be a great fit. Russ with George Pickens in the moonshots, Deontay Johnson able to just get open. Those are not both receivers, by the way, who don't really operate over the middle, or at least they don't have to. Deontay Johnson absolutely can, so can George Pickens, but they can still run the Russell Wilson offense where they're just throwing outside, throwing back and forth. So Russell Wilson to the Steelers, absolutely love it. We all know Baker Mayfield returned to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers as well. 3 years, $100 million, $33 million for Baker. That is just the ground floor at quarterback. That is what you are paying for a quarterback. $33 million for Baker Mayfield. That is a bargain, especially when Daniel Jones is making $40 million per year. So Baker's back, Mike Evans back, Antoine Winfield back as well. Other Smaller quarterback news across the NFL. The Jaguars trade for Mac Jones. Mac Jones gets a fresh start. They trade him for a 6th rounder, and the Jaguars give him, or at least give Trevor Lawrence, Gabe Davis as well. Gabe Davis going to be signing with the Jacksonville Jaguars on a 3-year deal. I didn't see the money on that, but Gabe Davis probably means Calvin Ridley is gone. He is out of here. Calvin Ridley likely walking in free agency. The Jaguars are still trying to bring him back. So this sounds like they want Gabe Davis to play the Zay Jones role. They want Calvin Ridley back. And if Calvin Ridley's not back, look for the Jaguars to draft a wide receiver. And then Christian Kirk is still Christian Kirk in the slot. So that's the goal for the Jaguars. And they also add Devin Duvernay as well. He'll replace Jamal Agnew as that wide receiver 4-5 / kick returner, punt returner, former All-Pro Devin Duvernay out of the University of Texas. Mitch Morse also signs with the Jacksonville Jaguars. So they've got their center now. They've got their left guard, Ezra Cleveland. They're bringing back the entire offensive line, except swapping out the centers. Hopefully that is the move that makes it work. We also saw the Raiders sign Gardner Minshew earlier today. So the Raiders signed Gardner Minshew to compete with Aiden O'Connell. They also signed Christian Wilkins to a big money deal, $110 million over 4 years, and allowed Josh Jacobs to walk in free agency. It's going to be Zamir White, Amir Abdullah, and a rookie. The Raiders are reportedly set to draft a new running back, but Zamir White expected to be the RB1 for 2024. And it's looking like Gardner Minshew is going to be QB1. I do think Gardner Minshew probably beats out Aiden O'Connell. It'll be a battle. It'll be a conversation, but I think Gardner Minshew probably wins it. But this is the crazy part is, where does Justin Fields go now? Because the Raiders have chosen Gardner Minshew over Justin Fields. That was one of his rumored landing spots. The Steelers chose Russell Wilson over Justin Fields. The Falcons chose Kirk Cousins over Justin Fields. And before free agency kicked off, we were hearing that teams view Justin Fields the same as a Darnold, a Drew Lock, just that 1-year shot at a guy. And you have to give up picks to get Justin Fields. He can just pay Sam Darnold. So what a fall from grace from Justin Fields. It breaks my heart. I am still a believer that Justin Fields is a starting quarterback, a top 32 quarterback in the NFL. But at this point, unless the Giants or the Vikings make a move, or the Patriots skip out on quarterback and trade for Justin Fields, then he's going to be a backup. Justin Fields is going to be a backup in 2024, whether that's with the Bears, whether that's with the Eagles or the Colts. Those are two teams that are linked to Justin Fields as a backup. But the best hope at this point for Justin Fields is if he can become Josh Dobbs, get traded at the deadline to a team that needs a starter at an injured quarterback, or not even the deadline, early in free agency, and then again at the deadline, Cardinals, and then to the Minnesota Vikings. And that's the best hope for Justin Fields at this point. That's really what it is. Fields to Denver, maybe. It's a conversation, but that doesn't really fit with Sean Payton, and we're not hearing that as a fit. So at this point, it looks like Justin Fields' best hope is going to be becoming Josh Dobbs, get traded to a team desperate for a quarterback. And that's a terrible position to be in because Justin Fields is more talented than that. Still waiting to find out what happens with Sam Darnold, Drew Lock, Jameis Winston, Carson Wentz, Ryan Tannehill, Joe Flacco, Josh Dobbs, who is also a free agent, Tyrod Taylor, and Tyler Huntley. But that's what we've got at the quarterback position so far. Moving on to the running back position. The Green Bay Packers signed Josh Jacobs to a 4-year, $48 million contract. That is the richest contract in free agency. Now, Saquon Barkley gets a little bit more money per year. Josh Jacobs gets a little bit of a longer deal, a little bit more guaranteed money. So however you want to put it, but the Packers signed Josh Jacobs and then cut Aaron Jones. So they're paying $12 million in dead money to cut Aaron Jones. They still save about $7 million. So they save money with Jones, but they're paying $12 million to not have Aaron Jones on their team. And then they're paying another $12 million per year to Josh Jacobs. Is that worth it? No, it's not. They should have made it work with Aaron Jones and brought in a between the tackles runner to replace A.J. Dillon, but here we are. The Packers going to have a bell cow running back behind Jordan Love, which I do like the idea of that. Josh Jacobs behind the Green Bay Packers offensive line, which is a strong offensive line, even though they did cut David Bakhtiari today, which we all expected. Still a strong offensive line. Josh Jacobs still going to have success. It's going to be an explosive offense. It's a young offense with Christian Watson and Jaden Reed, the wide receiver one, and the two tight ends, Luke Musgrave and Tucker Kraft. Ascending offense now adds Josh Jacobs to the mix. So I don't know. I think this is an upgrade because it's better to be with Jordan Love than Aiden O'Connell. So yeah, it's an upgrade. It's an upgrade for fantasy football. We also saw Saquon Barkley. Like I said, he signs for $12.3 million, $0.3 million per year more than Josh Jacobs, but he gets one less year on his contract, a little bit less guaranteed money. But Saquon Barkley headed to the Philadelphia Eagles for 3 years, $37 million. And Tiki Barber, Giants legend, is not happy about this, says Saquon is dead to him. Saquon Barkley fires back. I didn't even get a contract offer from the New York Giants. The Giants didn't want me. So what am I supposed to do? Just not play football because the Giants didn't want to bring me back? No, I'm going to get mine. I'm going to get paid. I'm going to go to the Philadelphia Eagles at $12.3 million per year. I'm going to run the rock with Jalen Hurts and this still strong offensive line. Cam Jurgens going to move to center. They got to figure out the right guard, but still a very dominant offensive line for the Eagles. They did pay their left guard, Landon Dickerson, made him the highest paid guard in the NFL. So it's still good. In Philadelphia, Saquon Barkley is an upgrade over DeAndre Swift. I like it. I really like it. Honestly, so many of these moves at the running back position are just upgrades, or at least these two are. I don't know about some of the other ones. But anyways, speaking of the Philadelphia Eagles, they also signed Bryce Huff to a 3-year, $51 million deal. That's $17 million per year, and they can make up to $20 million per year. So that probably means they're moving on from Hassan Reddick and or Josh Sweat. And Fletcher Cox, the longtime defensive tackle for the Eagles, retired today as well. So good luck in retirement to Fletcher Cox. Thank you for the memories. Congrats on the Super Bowl ring that you did win with the Eagles. We also saw Tony Pollard sign with the Tennessee Titans. This one hurts a lot of people. A lot of people are upset. Tony Pollard now splitting with Tajay Spears. Tony Pollard is the Ezekiel Elliott. Tajay Spears is the Tony Pollard. But we saw with Tony Pollard and the Dallas Cowboys, that full-time role with Dallas just wasn't as efficient. Part of that was him coming off of the broken ankle, but it wasn't as good as it was when he was a part-time player. So now Tony Pollard can be the lead back. Tajay Spears can still be the receiving back. We're not going to see the highs that we hoped for Tajay Spears, but they are still both going to be very productive. The Titans are working to upgrade their offensive line. They bring in Lloyd Cushenberry, the center, to play the pivot and block for Tony Pollard and Tajay Spears. Will Levis is a mobile quarterback, and so they'll be able to free up some rushing lanes as well. So Tony Pollard to the Tennessee Titans, it's not as good as it would have been with the Dallas Cowboys, but it's still going to be fine. It's still going to be all right. Tony Pollard is Joe Mixon, and Tajay Spears is Samaje Perine. We all remember how much success that duo had a couple years ago. That's the comparison. Tajay Spears, obviously way juicier, way more explosive. Tony Pollard also way more explosive than Josh Jacobs. That's kind of split we're looking at. Going to be 60-40-ish type split with Pollard as the lead back. They're both going to be productive in fantasy as long as we can fix the rest of the offensive line. But it's off to a good start. Speaking of the running back position, DeAndre Swift also signed for $8 million per year. So we got at the top Saquon Barkley and Josh Jacobs, $12+ million per year. Then at $8 million, we've got Swift and Pollard. Swift was actually the first contract signed in free agency to the Chicago Bears, a team that he used to face twice a year with the Detroit Lions. And funny enough, DeAndre Swift is making more than David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs combined. Insane. Absolutely insane, considering he would be RB3 for the Detroit Lions. But either way, Swift is now the RB1 for the Chicago Bears. Khalil Herbert takes a massive step back. Roschon Johnson, this absolutely breaks my heart. But DeAndre Swift has also dealt with injuries throughout his NFL career. Maybe we're looking at a bit of a committee. Khalil Herbert versus Roschon Johnson for that 30-40% role. Swift probably sitting at about 50-60% of the touches. RB3 probably in about 10-20% of the touches. So this is good for DeAndre Swift. Going to be catching passes from Caleb Williams out of the backfield. All good. Honestly, all good. This is another solid move in free agency when it comes to value. The Bears also signed Kevin Byard. We remember the safety formerly of the Philadelphia Eagles. So the Bears looking to inject some Eagles into their offense. The Commanders signed Austin Eckler. This broke just before the show kicked off. So we dropped from $8 million per year to $5.7 million per year for Austin Eckler to be the running back for the Washington Commanders. So they've got their grinder back between the tackles in Brian Robinson. Brian Robinson is a better version of Joshua Kelly. He is closer to Melvin Gordon towards his end of his career with the Los Angeles Chargers, where he's just the between the tackles grinder, can catch out of the backfield. And then Austin Eckler can go back to his role as a pure receiving back. $5.7 million over 2 years. 2 years, $11.4 million, but that's 5.7 per year for Austin Eckler to catch passes from Jaden Daniels, more than likely, potentially Drake May, potentially JJ McCarthy, but Austin Eckler, not an upgrade because he is not catching passes from Justin Herbert anymore, but we're hoping to see less is more, and this can be a long-term benefit for his NFL career. Then Austin Eckler in the same bucket as Devin Singletary, $5.5 million per year from Devin Singletary, just $200K a year more for Austin Eckler, but it's a 3-year deal for Devin Singletary. He returns to Brian Daboll's offense with the New York Giants, replaces Saquon Barkley. So I would be on the lookout for the Giants to draft a running back, but at the very least, you have a functional starter in Devin Singletary who knows the offense. He's not Alexander Madison-ish because Alexander Madison was always going to get cut, but Devin Singletary is he's just there. He's a body. He's there. This is a downgrade from what he would have seen with the Houston Texans. Whoever goes to the Houston Texans, that would be great to find out who's going to the Houston Texans to be in that backfield. But for now, it's a downgrade for Devin Singletary. Someone is going to get a massive, massive upgrade with the Houston Texans, but still a good fit with the New York Giants, an offense he's played in before. Hopefully the Giants get an upgrade at quarterback from Daniel Jones. If it is Daniel Jones at QB with Devin Singletary behind him, it could get pretty rough. They did sign Jermaine Illuminor, a former right tackle of the Las Vegas Raiders. So is he going to play right tackle and they're going to kick Evan Neal inside to guard? Because that might be an upgrade for this offensive line, letting Evan Neal maul people inside. Still have a functional right tackle. Andrew Thomas, still one of the better left tackles in the NFL. But that wasn't all for the New York Giants. Brian Burns was traded as well, a 2nd and a 5th rounder for Brian Burns. This is an absolute heartbreaker for Panthers fans who saw the Panthers turn down not 1 first, but 2 firsts and a 2nd round pick in exchange for Brian Burns in 2022. That was a mistake. Should have absolutely accepted that deal. And now they trade him for a 2nd and a 5th. Brian Burns gets a 5-year, $150 million deal, $30 million per year. He's the 2nd highest paid defensive end in football, behind only Nick Bosa. Rounding out the running back position, we've got Antonio Gibson headed to the New England Patriots. They have been looking for this style of running back. They wanted Ty Montgomery to be that guy. Didn't work out. They've been missing this style of running back since James White retired. Pass catcher out of the backfield. Antonio Gibson, 3 years, $11.25 million. So it's another step down from Tony. So we go from Saquon and Saquon and Josh Jacobs at $12 million. We take a step down to the $8 million running backs in Tony Pollard and DeAndre Swift. Then we take another step down to $5.5 million for Eckler and Singletary. Another step down to Antonio Gibson. Gets basically 1 year of his deal guaranteed. $3.5 million guaranteed for Antonio Gibson. Hopefully catching passes from Drake May. Hopefully Antonio Gibson can finally be showcased a little bit, but they've still got Ramondre Stevenson there, and their skill sets are kind of redundant. Antonio Gibson and Ramondre Stevenson, both good pass catchers out of the backfield. Ramondre Stevenson, probably better between the tackles runner. I don't know. But either way, this is a player the Patriots have been looking for quite a while. They also brought back Kendrick Bourne on a 3-year deal, $19.5 million for Kendrick Bourne. Brought back Hunter Henry, but Devontae Parker is going to be cut. And we got the Chargers, the Los Angeles Chargers, bring in Gus Edwards on a 2-year, $3.25 million per year contract, which is bad news for Blake Corum. Blake Corum's touchdown upside is going down because we all know Blake Corum's going to the Chargers in the second round. Gus Edwards going to be vulturing plenty of touchdowns on the goal line. But this is just a fit. Greg Roman loved Gus Edwards when they worked together with the Baltimore Ravens. This is just so natural, but it's bad news for Justin Herbert. They're going to be running the rock so much in LA. And another sign that they're going to be running the rock is Will Dissly, former blocking tight end for the Seattle Seahawks, 3-year, $14 million per year contract, $10 million guaranteed. So basically 2 years guaranteed for Will Dissly to block for Justin Herbert. That will basically round out the running back position here for us today. We now finally with the wide receivers, not a whole lot of motion. Michael Pittman did sign a new contract. He's always going to be back with the Colts no matter what in 2024. 3 years, $70 million. So that's $23.3 million per year for Michael Pittman to return to the not New England Colts, Indianapolis Colts. Sorry, my brain is operating at 1,000 miles per minute right now with all of this news. T. Higgins has requested a trade from the Cincinnati Bengals. Now, this is not because he wants out of Cincinnati. He wants to stay in Cincinnati, but he wants a long-term contract. He does not want to play under the franchise tag. Or if he's going to play under the franchise tag, let's at least work and negotiate towards a long-term deal. That's not even happening right now. So T. Higgins officially requests a trade from the Cincinnati Bengals. Carolina Panthers, who did just add a second-round pick from the New York Giants, could be in the market. Bengals also signed former Ravens safety Geno Stone. We saw the Browns trade for Jerry Jeudy just a couple days ago for a 5th and a 6th rounder. That's bad news for Elijah Moore. Jerry Jeudy still a wide receiver 2 in fantasy, not in fantasy football, in real life. Still probably wide receiver 3, 4, 5 in fantasy football. Amari Cooper still the alpha. David Njoku probably second in that passing game. So that's going to do it at the wide receiver position. We also saw smaller moves in Rashid Shaheed back to the New Orleans Saints, Nelson Aguilar back to the Ravens, Tim Patrick back to the Denver Broncos. But we're still waiting on Calvin Ridley, Hollywood Brown. We're still waiting to find out what happens with him. Gabe Davis did sign with the Jaguars, so that is the other move that we've seen today. But Tyler Boyd, Darnell Mooney, KJ Osborne, Noah Brown, Josh Reynolds, DJ Chark, MVS, all those guys still waiting to sign, still waiting to find out what happens there. We all know that the Texans signed Dalton Schultz to be the top tight end in free agency. We saw Will Dissly to the Chargers. We saw Colby Parkinson to the Rams on a 3-year, $22.5 million deal, $7.5 million per year. A big blocking tight end, formerly of the Seattle Seahawks. He's the one with the long hair, number 84. And so, could be bad news for Tyler Higbee. Tyler Higbee tore his ACL in the playoffs against the Detroit Lions. Could be bad news when they're giving a tight end $7.5 million per year. And the Rams have always been a one tight end offense. Maybe they become a 2 tight end offense. Maybe they add a wide receiver. Instead, Rams also continue to invest in their offensive line, Jonah Jackson. So they already paid Kevin Dotson $16 million per year to be their right guard. Now they signed former Lions left guard, Jonah Jackson, to $17 million per year, 3 years, $51 million. So now you've got Dotson at right guard, Jackson at left guard, and that kicks Steve Avila, the former second-round pick from last year, to center. The Rams are going to be mauling people up the middle. The Rams offensive line is going to be absolutely dominant. The Lions got to figure out what they're going to do at left guard, but the Lions are making some moves of their own. They do bring back their right guard, Graham Glasgow, and they sign Marcus Davenport. Don't love that deal. Former first-round pick by the Saints, played with Aaron Glenn and Dan Campbell. Then he goes to the Minnesota Vikings, plays only 4 games, gets 2 sacks, I suppose, but misses most of the year with injury. Now he signs a 1-year deal with the Lions. And then the Lions trade a third-round pick. The Lions' second third-round pick, the later of the 2 third-round picks, the third-round pick they got from the Minnesota Vikings, essentially, for Carlton Davis and 2 sixth-round picks as well. So the Detroit Lions make a massive trade at corner. They get their press man corner in Carlton Davis, who can just follow wide receivers across the defense. That was a big problem with the Todd Bowles defense. Todd Bowles wants to play a bunch of zone. They want to play a bunch of man in Detroit. So he becomes CB1. Cam Sutton now moves to cornerback number 2. Cam Sutton is a good NFL cornerback, not a great NFL cornerback. So moving him from the cornerback 1 to cornerback 2 is a great move. We also saw Jonnu Smith to the Miami Dolphins. As we all know, Zach Ertz to the Washington Commanders. That's all the tight end moves so far. We're still waiting on Noah Fant, still waiting to find out what happens there. Ooh, the Patriots bringing back Mike Onwenu. Didn't see that coming. $57 million over 3 years for Mike Onwenu. So he gets more than Jonah Jackson does. That is interesting. Good for him. He deserves it. He absolutely deserves it. So many of these guys deserve the paydays they're getting. Robert Hunt, former guard from the Miami Dolphins. He's the one we all remember. He caught that pass on a screen pass, illegal touching, but he scored the touchdown, the diving touchdown. 5 years, $100 million from the Carolina Panthers. Chris Jones, 5 years, $158.8 million, $101 million guaranteed from the Kansas City Chiefs. It's been a lot. It's been a lot today. It's been a great day. So much happening here at Player Profiler. I will be back on Wednesday, but Player Profiler today is here 7 days a week at 7 p.m. Eastern. You can catch us on the Player Profiler NFL Twitter. You can find us on Player Profiler News, and that's where you'll be getting all of your updates as well. From all of this breaking news, hop in the Discord as well. You can see us working as this all comes to light. But thank you all so much for joining me. Be sure to subscribe to Player Profiler News and catch Player Profiler today all 7 days of the week at 7 p.m. Eastern. Because as crazy as today has been, there is so much more yet to happen. We're talking Calvin Ridley, Derrick Henry, Vikings quarterback, Giants quarterback. There is so much coming to you from Player Profiler today.
Hey, I want to thank you for being part of this broadcast. If you have any thoughts on it, leave a comment. If you enjoyed it, make sure you leave a like. And if you want to see more shows on the Player Profiler channel, subscribe to it. That's how we know you want more.